Hello, hello, welcome to Wool and Spinning. My name is Rachel. I can be found pretty much everywhere as Wool and Spinning. Welcome to this place. I'm located just outside of Vancouver, British Columbia here in Canada, and I hope that you are having a wonderful day. We are streaming at a brand new time at 12 noon Pacific instead of 10 a.m. Pacific. It's been very odd because usually I run the kids to school on Tuesdays, and then I run home and I check in with Spin Group, which happens just before the live stream. And then I get everything ready, and I sometimes have a snack, sometimes don't. It depends on how long I think the show is going to be. And then, because I've eaten breakfast usually in the morning around 7:30 in the morning. And then I stream all morning. And then it's like, I look at the clock and it's like time to get the kids. And so this is like really weird. It's like this morning I could actually get some other things done. I had a phone conversation with a friend. I chatted with people in the Spin Group for a little while. It's kind of nice. So thank you for joining me a little bit later, and thank you for being flexible this month as we shift both the live stream and the wool circle forward by 2 hours. I really appreciate your flexibility and willingness to try. I know the time doesn't work for everyone. I appreciate that. I know that, and we're never going to find a time that works for absolutely everyone, but I do appreciate those who've been really gracious about needing to shift the time. So thank you. Chat is already off to a very quick start. It's so good to see everybody. Thank you for being here. For those who are watching the show later, if you are interested in being a member of the Wool and Spinning community, head over to patreon.com/woolandspinning and have a look and see if there's something that you think might fit and work for you. We keep the lights on and we keep doing this week after week, month after month because of your support and because of your contribution to the community. I want to say thank you so much to all of you for doing that. Those who are already contributing, it really makes a big difference. And it means that we can come together a few times a month and talk about my process, talk about what I'm working on. And I also get to often showcase what you guys are doing and what you guys are working on, which makes it all that much better. So without further ado, let's talk about what I'm wearing. I am wearing Tahka. It's a cardigan that's made out of a bulky yarn. This is Disdarrow Ranch Roram Bulky. It's a CVM Romney mohair blend. I think it has, is it CVM or Corriedale? I can't remember. I know it's Romney mohair. Anyways, it's from a local ranch to me, 3 hours just north of me, in a place called Tappan, British Columbia, here in British Columbia in Canada. They have sheep. It's a no-kill farm for the most part. She mills all of her yarns, and this is one of the yarns that I had bought from them. I think it was, I was trying to remember if it was Knit City, Vancouver, like a year and a half ago, or if it was Fibers West a year ago. I can't remember, but it was one of the festivals. I saw another knitting acquaintance person wearing another sweater that she had done out of this yarn that was all cabled. It was beautiful. And I was going to make that. And then when push came to shove, I just didn't have the, I was really worried about the strength in my hands and straining my hands by having such a bulky yarn and doing all the cabling. I'm very, very careful what needle sizes I use and what knitting gauge I work at, because too small or too big and I start having problems with my hands and strain. I like to stick between 3mm needles up to about 4mm, 4.5mm, which is like sort of US size 2 up to about a US size 4 or 5. Anyhow, so I had this yarn in my stash for quite a while, and this is a pattern by Sari Nordlund, who's one of my absolute most favorite knitwear designers. And I talked about it a lot on the podcast when I first finished it. It's got this really interesting shaping in the sleeve. And the idea is that like your elbow kind of fits in that little shaping. Very, very clever. And I did lengthen it a little bit. I'll just step back. I lengthened it a little bit, and I lengthened the sleeves. Remember, I had to rip out the sleeves, and then I redid them, and I lengthened them, and then I refinished. I like rewashed it, reblocked it, and then I think I talked about it very briefly on an episode, but I never really kind of followed up with it very much. And I think it's actually because I fixed it and then I moved on. So anyhow, it's been hanging on my Diana doll right here for the last number of weeks. And as I was getting ready for the podcast, I was pulling it off. I was wearing another sweater that was Canadian wool, but not made by me. And I was sort of switching them out. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to wear this today. And so this is my Ravelry project page for the cardigan if you're interested in learning more. Very easy, very straightforward. But if you've got some singles or some bulky yarn in your stash that you want to use up, and you've got about 800 or 900 yards, it's one of those like super oversized cardigans that like anybody could wear kind of thing. Easy peasy. I think I knit it over a weekend. I feel like I knit it in November when I was recovering from surgery, because that was when I did the Qatar tee, this one, my CVM cotton. I cast this on at the same time and worked on that when I was starting to feel better and wanted something really, really interesting to work on to distract myself from the pain, to be totally honest. And I feel like I did this at the same time and it like knit up like that. I'm pretty sure that's how it all worked. Anyhow, thank you for listening. Housekeeping, let's do housekeeping. Couple of things. We've shifted forward for the live stream and the wool circle, like I mentioned. Please mark your calendars for June 16th. It's in the housekeeping video as well for Woolen Spinning community members. And there was something else. Breed Blends and Color Study is still available on Bramble Ridge on the website. Megan's still got a little bit of stock. You can check that out if you want to join. Is there anything else? I think that's everything. If there's anything while the video is playing that I remember that I want to mention afterwards, I will talk to you afterward. All right, pretty straightforward. For June 16th, for Woolen Spinning's birthday, it's our 9-year birthday. It's not our 10-year just yet. We're doing a run-up to 10 years. If there are people who are free between the hours of 9 a.m. Pacific and 9 p.m. Pacific, and you would like to reach out to me because you feel like from like 4 till 6 p.m. you could be around, can you reach out to me? Just send me a quick message on Slack. Me and Rebecca are going to start putting together a list of people who are going to be around that day. I don't need to give you more information than that, but if there's a few people, you know, who are around, I have a couple of things that I want to do that day for that 12-hour Zoom. And so don't throw it into the chat. Send me a message on Slack when you get a minute. There's no rush. We've got lots of time. But I am looking forward to things. So I sort of feel like I don't want this to sound negative because it's not. I just feel like I kind of have to get through April. And then once we're through April, to have these things on the calendar in May and June and going into the summer, very excited about that. It's a Monday, Dion, June 16th. I think that's going to be really positive. I think that's going to be a really wonderful thing. So, yeah, Monday, June 16th, if you know that day between 9 a.m. Pacific and 9 p.m. Pacific. So for those in different time zones, you'll just have to do a little bit of mental math. Let me know. Just reach out to me and Rebecca. Woolen Spinning Radio is released. It came out today because it is April 1st. How is it April? Rebecca and I did a really fun episode for Woolen Spinning Radio this month. This is available everywhere that you can get your audio podcasts. So Spotify, Audible, iTunes, all the places. I think I released it properly this month. Thank you to Eveline for mentioning March's episode didn't reach her. It was one, I think her iPlayer or something, and she was like, it should be there, right? And I was like, yes, it should be. And I checked, and sure enough, I hadn't done it right. So I'm pretty sure it's there now, or that I did this one right. But Rebecca and I were playing around with like fun little segments. So we were kind of thinking about like, in terms of like long-term for the Woolen Spinning Radio, like episodes, we were sort of thinking, Rebecca was sort of thinking about like, because we both listen to a ton of non-fiber related podcasts. We both have huge lists of podcasts that we listen to that have nothing to do with fiber and wool and knitting and spinning and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, they always have like segments, right? So we played around with an episode of like, what would these segments be like and how would they roll in a regular episode? And so we played around with that. And it's just really like a really fun episode to listen to. And I think it was Claudia, she mentioned like she just really enjoyed listening to it. She popped a message up on the post this morning. So thank you. Yeah, so I hope you enjoy it. It's just a really fun episode that we recorded. I'm trying to stay on track because we have a very, very full show. So I am like looking at my notes. Usually within like 10 or 15 minutes of the episode, I've completely I just ignore my notes for the rest of the show because I kind of have an idea of what I'm talking about. And I've done this for a long time, 300 plus episodes. And so then I start ignoring my notes. But today I'm like, stay on task. Focus on your notes. Stay with what you're supposed to be talking about. I was going to mention one thing. This is purely like a housekeeping semantics kind of a thing. For those who find that I talk really super quickly, because I know that it's an issue and I know that I talk really quickly, and there are people in our community that talk even faster than me, and part of that is just the way that we speak in English. Like we just talk quickly. I always find that when I'm listening to like French or Spanish, they talk really quickly too, and they don't realize it. They just do. And I'm trying to keep up with my like rudimentary, terrible French and my grade 12 French. I'm like, what? If you find that that's an issue and you find sometimes I'm talking about something and I get faster and faster and faster, at the bottom of YouTube down here in this corner, you can find the speed button, and I would highly recommend that you slow me down to 0.75. It'll probably make a big difference for you in terms of like being able to not sort of to be able to pick up on what I'm saying and whatnot. And it helps you to like hear what I'm saying and watching the show at sort of a speed that feels right for you. So do that. Do slow me down, like, you know, maybe not during the live stream. I don't know if you can slow the live stream down or not. I think you can. Yeah, you can. I just checked. But that might help. And I don't know, like for some, I know sometimes the functionality of YouTube isn't something that, you know, everybody's super aware of or knows, but use those functions, use that playback speed and just slow it down to 0.75. It probably will help. And I hope that's helpful to mention that, because I know sometimes I talk really, really quickly. And yeah, it's just important for all of us to like remember that, you know, one, English isn't always the first language. Number two, we all speak at different speeds. And number three, I know that I do speak quite quickly. So thank you for, you know, pointing it out, and for all of us just having that reminder of like, oh, hey, we all communicate differently. And it's really important. So, and it's funny because, okay, so Christine just said there's a podcast I listened to where I speed it up to 1.25. So I don't listen to anything at less than 2 times speed, and sometimes I'll put it at 1.75. I listen to everything like really quickly, and Mike listens to stuff even faster. And because there's so many podcasts, especially where there's interviews, and so people are thinking about their responses and thinking, being thoughtful about how they're responding. And there's all those gaps in time. So there's different podcast apps that you can use if you're listening to audio podcasts where you can actually get rid of that dead space. So if you find that somebody's not talking fast enough or there's a bunch of dead space, you can actually get rid of that. So it goes both ways. So yeah. I know, Jenny, you are so funny. So Jenny and I talk about this all the time. If you guys heard me and Jenny's phone conversations, it's like, brrr, like we talk so fast, her and I. And my best friend Amber and I talk so quickly. If you guys think I talk fast, oh my goodness. My friend Amber, she's my best friend, known her for eons. She talks twice as fast as me. So you can imagine when the two of us are together, it's like hyper speed. And yeah, Jenny, you're a very fast talker as well. Very fast talker. All right. I have quite a lot finished. I have skeined up a lot of yarn. It's actually in cake form now, but I wanted to share it with you, and we'll sort of just slowly work our way through it because it's all stuff for an article that I'm writing for Weft magazine. And so I can't share with you the stuff that's actually going into the article, but because the actual spinning and the actual yarn itself is not the subject of the article, I can share with you the yarn. So why don't we start there, and I'll sort of share with you what that's been like and spinning up all of this stuff, because it's been a lot of spinning. It's also been really nice to feel that sense of accomplishment that I've actually like spun and skeined a lot of yarn. So let's do that, and yeah, and we'll go from there. You guys are so funny. Now there's all this chat in the chat about fast and slow talkers. I love it. I love it. It's so funny, Rebecca, when I was saying about the like increasing the podcast speeds, I was like, but that wouldn't be for Rebecca. Like I was thinking that in the back of my head, and then you typed it out. You're like, it breaks my brain to speed it up. I love that I know you. Okay, so for this Weft article, I'm writing the article, and it's all handspun warp, handspun Weft. So Weft magazine, just for those who haven't heard about it yet, it's a spin-off sister magazine to Ply magazine. So JC Boggs Faulkner is the editor of both, and she started Weft magazine with our friend Lisa, who is of Lisa Graves of Kawartha Weaving, which is in the Kawartha Lakes region of Ontario, which happens to be where my in-laws live, which is kind of funny. And well, in like close enough. They're like 30 minutes away. And Lisa and JC came up with this idea for Weft magazine. And so the first issue is coming out like imminently. It's already been, I actually got to see it digitally. It is beautiful. Beautiful. I am so humbled and proud and touched to be a part of that first episode. Like, it is incredible. It is a beautiful, beautiful issue. Anyhow, so for this other article that I'm writing for another issue of the magazine, so handspun warp, handspun weft, and I'm not going to tell you too much about the article itself because that's like going to be in the article, but I had to spin 3 different types of yarn. And so we're looking at wool classification for it. And what was really, really cool was I sort of had an opportunity to sort of look through my stash, figure out what I had. And I didn't really have anything that like really worked like really well. And I reached out to my dear friend Melissa Goulet of Melly Knits, and she had this absolutely exquisite Dorset horn. And this came from our friend Sherry Stewart, who's up in Maple Ridge, who, funny story, I'm actually doing a workshop with her on Sunday this week. came up in our guild newsletter, and I just kind of thought, you know what, like I'm probably going to be starting treatment the next day. It would be wonderful to be at a workshop. All the distraction in the world. My dear friend Sybil and I are going to do it together. It's just like a great opportunity. It means I have to miss Nora's first game of the season, but Nora said she was okay with it. And we've made a date because all of the games at this level get recorded and they get uploaded. Mike, my husband, does all of that for the team. So I said to her, I'm like, why don't, when I get home and when you get home, why don't we crack a can of bubbly each? And it'll actually probably be President's Choice sparkling water. For those who are Canadian, you know what I'm talking about. And we'll sit down and you tell me about the game and we'll watch it together. Probably at 1.5 speed. But, and she was like, that would be awesome. That would be great. I'd love that. And then I get to go to my workshop. So this fleece came from where I'm doing the workshop, which is really cool. So this is an absolutely exquisite Dorset horn. It actually feels more like a medium wool than it does a down. It has this real like Corriedale type feel to it. This could pass as Corriedale. It could pass as like a long stapled Polworth. It's really, really beautiful. It doesn't feel particularly downy at all. A really soft cheviot. Or as some people say, cheviot. We say cheviot here. Anyhow, so this was the first one, just beautiful. And this is the yarn that spun from it. And I actually have photos. I have a slideshow for you in just a moment, but this is the yarn. This is what's left over from the samples that I've already woven. It wove up as a 2-ply, 24 wraps per inch. So I wove it at 13 ends per inch. A 40-degree twist angle post-washing. Pre-washing, the twist angle was somewhere between 45 and 50. It was sort of sitting around like 48 degrees. And it came out at 2,500 yards per pound. That's important. Remember that number. I was so happy with this. And I said to my friend Megan of Bramble Ridge and Melissa of Melly Knits, this past week, I said to them, I am so in love with this yarn. And it made me think of something that my friend Diana Twist had told me years ago. And I shared it with Melissa and Megan. I was like, it's really wonderful to get to the point with your spinning. After you spin those first like couple of skeins where you're learning and you're just getting started and you're making a continuous thread and you're just so excited that you're making a continuous thread. But once you get past that initial, those first couple of like, I call them like tester skeins, and you start spinning, Diana shared this with me years ago, that every single yarn that you spin, that's your most favorite yarn because that's the most recent and that's the pinnacle of your spinning. And we all have yarns that don't go well and don't work, but they're the exception. They're not the rule. And when I finished this and I skeined it and I washed it and finished it and I spun it in the washing machine on the spin and drain cycle to get all the excess water because it's been really wet here and really moist and stuff's just not drying. And I pulled it out and I hung it to dry. And the next day I looked at it and I was like, this is probably some of my best yarn I've ever spun. And I think that is true for 3 reasons. First of all, the fleece was exquisite. Like it was written on the tag by Sherry Stewart, exquisite. So I started off with a blue ribbon fleece. I prepped it in a way that I knew would work for the fleece, and I knew that it would create a beautiful prep. So I lock popped it, popped each end open. It's quite long stapled, so I pop. Beautiful open fleece. Let me show you the slideshow while we're chatting. Here it is. The photos of it lock popped will come up, I think. And so that was the second thing. So beautiful prep. I put it through the carder 1 time. That was all that was needed after lock popping it. It went through the carder 1 time. That was how good quality this stuff was. And third, that lock pop stuff wasn't the BFL. It wasn't the Dorset, it's the BFL, which we'll talk about in a minute. And third, I knew exactly how to spin it to get the yarn that I needed for the article. And I spun it continuous back. I smoothed the whole time. I rewound the singles to the first spun end for really, really super smooth plying. And all of that combined, it just created really great yarn. So that was the first yarn that I finished this past week, and I've already spun and I've already warped and woven the samples. And then the other yarn was this one from Twin Oaks in Ontario, Twin Oaks Farm. This is a BFLxRomney cross, and this was spun in exactly the same way that the Dorset that I just shared with you was spun. So this came out with a 45-degree twist angle post-washing. Actually closer to 40, sorry, 40-degree twist angle. So I applied it to 45 to 50, and then it washed out at 40, because a lot of twist dissipates in the washing more so than you would think. And 24 wraps per inch for the finished yarn. And this yarn was ever so slightly finer, and I was a little bit concerned. I'll show you the photos if you like to watch the slideshow while I'm chatting. It's kind of nice to have a visual distraction while I'm talking at you. This was it lock popped, and the tips were a little bit stained. They were a little bit yellow, but it all came out in the carding, and it carded up absolutely beautifully. And you can see the photo there of the locks, but this is a close-up of the locks here so that you can see if you want to, and look at that crimp, and that's the BFL coming through. It's that crimp, and I thought that this would be a really tricky monster to try to lock pop. I thought that these locks would be really tangly. I didn't think they would lock pop very quickly. That bin full of lock popped locks is only about an hour of work. All those locks, that was an hour of work. They popped super, super, super fast. They weren't tangled, and all I did, and I'm not going to do it with these because I don't want to, these will get sent in for the article to show like what I started with, but basically what I did, I'll just pause it here. What I did was I just teased, oh, it didn't stop. Stop. Nope, that's not the picture. Where's the picture? Sorry, you guys. There it is. What I did was I just teased them open with my fingers, and then I lock popped, same with the butt end, the cut end, lock popped. And it was super, super fast. This was an hour of work during one of our weekly Zoom groups. I don't think it was weaving. I don't think it was fiber prep group. I think it was it was weaving or sewers or something, Monday or Friday. This was only an hour of work, and I was very sweetly surprised. Because BFL can be really, really tangly. And then same, I spun it, I carded it. It went through the carder twice versus only one time with the Dorset. I think I probably could have gotten away with carding it only one time, but honestly, I was like, if I put it through one more time, it's just gonna take the fiber prep to that next level. And then same thing, I pre-drafted out little nests, just like I did with the Dorset. And I ended up with this beautiful yarn. So the yards per pound on this is 2,400 yards per pound. So these two yarns are basically the same grist. 2,500 yards per pound and 2,400 yards per pound. 100 yards per pound at that fineness, it doesn't matter. They're basically the same. I would say that these are both roughly 24, between 24 and 2,500 yards per pound. So exactly what I was hoping for. They came out basically the same. This one is also 24 wraps per inch. I wove these samples at 13 ends per inch as well. The reason why I set them at 13 versus 12, usually for plain weave, you divide your wraps per inch in half, and that's sort of where you start for your sampling for plain weave. The reason why I did it at 13 was I knew that I also wanted to do some twill sampling, and I should have cut the samples off the loom and re-slayed at a tighter set for the twill, but I didn't want to, it's just too much. It's too much. So I ended up not doing that. And I just did one set that I could do both sets with. So the plain weave is teensy tiny bit tighter, and the twill is a teensy tiny bit more open, if that makes sense. Sorry, Carolyn, what do you mean, which ratio did you use for this? In terms of my spinning ratio, like which whirl was I on the wheel? Is that what you're asking? I'm sure that's what you're asking. I just don't want to assume. That's so funny. Rebecca says, It's interesting how the locks pop differently. My Wensleydale's popping super slow, but my BFL from Kelly is super fast. It's funny, hey? And my Cotswold fleece, I'm halfway through that. I kind of put it aside because of all this other stuff that I need to do. My Cotswold is super, super, super fast. Even though it's so unbelievably long that you almost have to do it in like parts. So it's kind of funny. Oh, good. Thanks, Carolyn. I just didn't want to assume, but I was pretty sure. I don't usually talk about whirls and ratios because I basically spin everything on the same ratio on every single wheel. So it doesn't matter what I'm spinning. I don't change. And the reason is twofold. First of all, my hands move very, very quickly and my feet, and second of all, my feet move very, very slowly. So I've sort of figured out how to set my wheels up to compensate for that. So for all of these yarns that I'm talking about, they were all spun at 28:1 on my Majacraft wheels. And I don't spin much else on much else in much else. So if I want less twist to go into the singles, like let's say I have my Cotswold and I don't want 28:1, like I don't want the wheel like flinging that quickly. Instead of changing the ratio or changing the whirl, I just treadle more slowly, which is saying something because I already treadle very, very slowly. I tend to compensate and change myself and change the number of drafts over 20 inches rather than changing the settings of my wheel. And that is why I don't talk about it very often on the show, because I find that I actually change myself more easily than if I change the wheel. And that's pretty opposite to what most people out there do. And it's just, I don't know why I've kind of ended up being that type of a spinner. I can spin super thick yarn on a really, really fast ratio, and I can spin really super thin yarn on a really fast ratio. I can't spin a thin yarn on a slow ratio because then I don't have enough twist because my feet move so slowly. Does that make sense? So both of my Majacraft wheels are both set at 28:1, and I basically leave them there. It's very rare that I change where the band is. And I don't write on my control cards. I very, very rarely write down what ratio I'm spinning at because it never changes. It's always the same. Does that make sense? If you guys want to get into a discussion about all of that and about ratios and how we can change our spinning to our ratios and doing all of that, we've done lots and lots of teaching content on that in the past. I would be super, super, super happy to have that conversation and to help you guys and to do that. So what happened was very early in my spinning career, I had a couple of spinning mentors who really influenced how I spin. And I don't think it's that different from many people out there spinning, but I think there's a couple of key differences to some of what's being taught on the internets. So just bear with me for just a minute. And this has been taught in our woolen spinning content in the past, but it is very rare that I don't not spin. I hate double negatives like that. I'm so sorry that I don't not spin with a string attached to my drafting hand. So let me just turn off this, other camera so you guys can see what my hands are doing. But basically, and this is in our woolen spinning teaching content and stuff. So just bear with me for just a minute. Okay. It is very rare that I don't not, so I'm drafting and I'm doing my thing, right? And on draft, onto the wheel, draft, onto the wheel. In this hand, my drafting hand, it is very rare that there is not a string that I hold on to with that finger that tells me when I am 20 inches from the orifice of my wheel, that I have drafted out 20 inches and then wind on. And the reason for that is if I treadle at my regular treadling speed, which is usually about 4 to 5 treadles for the 20 inches, that from the orifice of the wheel to the end of that string, I've put about, let's just for round numbers say, 5 treadles into that length, into that 20-inch length. So if I'm spinning at 20:1 for my ratio, over 20 inches and I've treadled 5 times, I've put 100 twists into that 20-inch length of yarn. And that is how I calculate my twists, like how much twist I'm putting into my singles and then how much twist I need in my plaid yarn. So I kind of ignore, I don't change my ratios on my wheels. I go based on how much I need, how many twists I need in that 20-inch length of yarn to get the yarn that I want to spin. Does that make sense? And we have talked about this in the teaching content behind the scenes, the stuff that you get access to when you're a patron of the wool and spinning community. And we've gone over all of this. That influence so early in my spinning career had changed the way that I spin early enough that I hadn't developed enough habits, good, bad, or otherwise, that I just kind of took that way of spinning, and that's just how I do things. Does that make sense? Yeah. I love that you asked that question, Dion. Honestly, the 20 inches was my mentor, that she was like, 20 is a good number. So I just always used 20. She sometimes used 12 and sometimes used 20, depending on if she was using a continuous backwards draft or long draw. So if she was using continuous back, she would use a 12-inch length of yarn. And if she was doing long draw, she would use 20 inches. And she was like, 20 is a good number. So I just was like, well, why would I have 12 or 20? Let's just use 20. It's a great round number. 20, you can multiply 2 times whatever and add a 0 at the end, and it's so much easier. So I just have always used 20. It's like, honestly, I think what I need to clarify though, for some, like if you're confused and you're at the beginning of your spinning journey, keep this in mind. This was the reason why this influenced me so much and why this changed how I spin, the yarns I spin, the yarns I create, why they're so consistent, why the numbers across the skeins from beginning to end are the same, is because these key mentors influenced me so early in my spinning career. I should say my spinning journey, but it does feel like a career because like it is, you know, I do, like, this is my work. That it kind of came at a time where I was just really like kind of a bit of an empty vessel, where it was like, obviously what you're doing is working for you. It works across the board, whether it's wool, flax, cotton, it works. And I was just at that point where I was, just about going to make another big like skill jump in terms of like knowledge acquisition, skill at the wheel, yarns that I was making, etc., that it was just right at the right moment where I was like, oh, I could do that. And I just have done it that way ever since. And sometimes we learn these things in those moments where it just comes at the right time and you're open to it, you adopt it, and you just never look back. And that's what happened with me. And that's why I don't really talk about ratios, because it doesn't matter. And because I do tend to treadle quite slowly, like some people might take that 20-inch length of yarn and they might treadle at Mach 400 and they've put like 10 twists in that 20 inches. Well, yeah, then you need to look at your ratio and you probably do need to slow it down, but you can still use the 20-inch string method. You just need to change your ratios. So, and for me, it just has ended up being one of those things where, I know approximately how much twist I can pack into that 20 inches for that particular breed of wool, that particular blend, to get the yarn that I want in that particular situation. The last yarn that I finished, I love this yarn, my precious. This is Cormo. So this came from upstate New York from my dear friend Ellen. She's a pillar of our community, and she sent this to me because I needed a fine wool for my article. And it is so crimpy and so curly that it like immediately just like, compacts, but it's actually like almost a 5-inch staple. And it's crimp. It's crimptastic. Can we make that a new word? We'll put it in the spinner's dictionary, crimptastic. Anyways, it is just phenomenal. It's a fantastic fleece. This is a one-off sheep kept by her friend. Yeah, it's just fantastic. Anyhow, same thing, lock popped. I think I have photos to show you guys. Let me just see. Here's all of the stuff that I've spun and where it's from for the article so that you guys can have a look. 2 Canadian wools and 1 American. So this is the Cormo. So I took all of the Cormo. Ellen was very, very generous in how much that she sent me because she wasn't sure how much I was going to lose in the washing because of the lanolin. Fine wool, Cormo has a lot of lanolin, and she wasn't sure. So she was very, very generous. So Ellen, thank you so much. I lock popped it all. And then this, I think partially because it was a fine wool, it did need more passes on the drum carder. So this went through 3 times and it probably could have gone through a 4th. And I told Ellen this already, so it won't come as a surprise to her, but the Cormo is so fine. And I've spun and worked with Cormo fleece before. I have to admit, it's not my favorite, but because I already had the other 2 yarns in progress and they were on the loom and like getting closer to being done and et cetera, et cetera. This Cormo, I think because the carder was set, the speed was set a little bit higher, and I put that first pass through more quickly than it should have gone through, I ended up causing a little bit of naps in parts of the Cormo fleece, and it was just completely my fault. And they were teeny tiny and there weren't very many of them, but as I was spinning it did slow me down a little bit because I had to pick them out. So then when I went through the 2nd and 3rd pass, I just made sure I slowed the carder right down. It was totally my fault. And it just ended up being one of those like silly, you know, the duh kind of a things, you know, later when you come back and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did that. Again, spun to the same specs as the BFLxRomney cross and the Dorset horn. 45 to 50 degree twist angle in the plying, post-washing about 40 degrees, post-washing 24 wraps per inch. There are parts of this that are closer to 23 wraps per inch, just ever so tiny bit thicker. I think like if you look at the elasticity on this thing, it's probably about 15% elasticity. I suspect it's like this thing just springs like unbelievably. I'm not allowed to swear on the podcast. I think that part of that slightly thicker wraps per inch in places is because of the springiness of the fibers. It's just the elasticity of the fibers. And the yards per pound came out at 2,500 yards per pound, which is exactly what I was going for. So all 3 yarns have the exact same grist, which I think when you're doing these like really, really like these side-by-side comparisons and you're looking at these different, you know, these different, you know, fibers, and you're spinning them up and you're looking at them. This is the little Cormo sample that'll be included that I send to Weft for them to do the photographs. So this is the little Cormo sample. You can see it up close there. It's really important that the grist is the same and that the yarns are spun as similarly as they possibly can, given that they're really different classifications of wool. Your fine wools are always going to come out with more sproing. They're always going to be finer in terms of softness next to the skin. You know, your long wools are going to be high luster. They're going to have that drape, that sheen, like I said, with the luster. Some of them are next to the skin soft, but some of them aren't. You know, the long wools we start to get as we go along the spectrum of long wools, we're getting into, you know, those coarser rug wools that, you know, have that sheen and have that, you know, they're always going to have that little bit of a halo from those tips, those curly tips and butts sticking out. Whereas the fine wools, not to the same extent. The mediums, right smack in the middle. So yeah, really, really, this is the little Dorset sample that I'm going to keep because I just love it. I love this yarn so much. Anyhow, those are my finished yarns. Thank you for listening to me wax poetic about fleece. I could wax poetic about fleece almost all day, every day, other than talking about weightlifting. Then I could wax poetic about that for the other half of the day. Yeah, thank you so much, Pauline. She says all 3 are stunning. Ellen says turned out wonderfully. It did, Ellen. I can't wait to show you the woven samples. Very satisfying that they all came out so parallel. Agreed. And the fact that 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 was the goal. Because I was getting a little bit concerned with the Cormo. I was like, oh, I think this is spinning up too thin, because the fine wools, the finer they are, the more crimps per inch. Those really, really fine wools, they want to spin up really thin. And like, it's hard to manage your twists per inch and make sure that you're not getting too thin and your wraps per inch and stuff. And I was starting to get, oh, I don't know, this is getting a bit fine. The last thing that I have finished that I want to share with you is Breed Blends and Color Study. So I started this on the weekend, almost a little bit on a whim, because I had all my Weft magazine spinning done. I talked about on the show last time that I was going to take all of the colorways, because I got a half pack, and I took them all and I divided them in half. So they all ended up being little bundles like this. And those little halvesies, I think I have photos. Let's see if I followed through with photos. I know I meant to. I did not. That's okay. No problem. No harm, no foul. I'll have photos for next time. So what I did was I took these halvesies and I took each of them and I stripped them down into 4. So basically every colorway will have 8 bundles. So 4, 4, 4. So the deep freeze, just the 4. This is the winter morning. I want to call it frozen morning. I don't know why. I think it's because of the deep freeze colorway. I cannot get these colorway names straight at all, but hopefully after working with it, it'll help. So winter morning, that's 1/2 of the bundle. They're all stripped down there, ready to go. Same with this one, same with this one. So I did 2 of the 6. And I shared with you on the show last time that I was going to do 3 combo spins so that every colorway gets plied with itself. So let me just pull up my notes here, because of course I've gone rogue and I'm not watching my notes. So it's basically like deep freeze and Fireside, deep freeze and winter morning, and then Fireside and winter morning. So 3 different yarns, but all comboed with each other. And then the plan is a woven stole, color blocked, all that kind of fun stuff. So this is the first yarn. So this you can probably see, very dark, very moody, very purple. This is 1 singles of deep freeze and 1 singles of Fireside, and spun to 24 wraps per inch. Softer twist angle because we're dealing with a long wool, so I didn't want to have a really, really harsh twist angle. I did ply it to a twist angle of about 40, and this is a finished washed, this has been washed and finished, twist angle of about 30 to 35. It's like 33 if we want to get really technical, which will be more than enough to put it through the loom and to withstand the warp tension of the loom. So I have a project on my Louette spring that I have to weave off after I'm finished all this weft article spinning, weaving. I'll get on my spring, get that woven off, and then this will be the next project to go on. This is about 200 yards, so 3 skeins of 200 yards each. We'll do a warp that'll use roughly 2/3 of every colorway, and then the final third will be the weft for the 3 colorways. So that's sort of the plan. So this will warp up, what's 200 divided by 3? So roughly 120 yards for the warp to give me a really nice fringe, and then the weft. So it'll be really fun. Probably roughly, I want to say like 75, maybe 80 inches long, and then as wide as possible, however much I can do wide in terms of like to give me a sort of a fairly decent sized stole that I can wrap around. So that's the first of 3 yarns. I'm really happy with how this turned out. As I was spinning each of the colorways, I was like, oh, I should just keep them with themselves and not do the combo, and the deep freeze would look so pretty with itself, and the Fireside would look so pretty, and I don't want to combine them, and I don't want to apply them together. And I was having all these like second thoughts, and I was like, no, Megan has more. If I really want to, I can recreate this project again, and I can do the colorways on their own, but I am doing the combo. I had to put my foot down. So that's what I did. So pushing myself out of my comfort zone. So that's my Breed Blends and Color Study, and as long as we don't go too far over, I'll share with you on the community participation, what people have been doing with their breed blends and color study. And as you saw in the housekeeping role earlier, there is still stuff available. The posts are linked in the down bar, and you guys can still get stuff if you'd like to. So I did get some spinning prep ready for when all of this is done. So I'll share that with you next, because I'm actually really happy with how it all turned out. So I have my big bin here. This is 1/3 of the prep that I needed to do for my Shetland+Corriedale+Cotton spin. So I'm actually really excited about this because this is 1/3 of it, and then I have the other 2/3 down here, both ready to go. So this is going to be one bobbin, this is going to be a bobbin, and that is going to be a bobbin. So I'll put these two down just because you don't need to see bags of stuff, but they're all the same. What ended up happening with this spin, and I've been working on the Shetland for quite a long time, and I've talked about it on the show quite a few times, but what ended up happening with it was it just would not combine with the cotton at all. It didn't matter what I did, how many times I put it through the carder, it just did not want to combine with the cotton at all. So I added Corriedale to it that had more bounce and more sproing. It was more elastic, it had more crimps per inch. It wasn't quite as smooth as the Shetland. It was what we would call higher porosity. So it just had a more crimp. It was slightly coarser, even though it was still very soft. It just was willing to blend with the Shetland really beautifully, and by extension, blend with the cotton. So I had added into some of the bats 40% Corriedale, 40% Shetland, and then the final 20% cotton. What was happening though, because I was doing that, was the amount of fiber and the weight of fiber was just going up and up and up and up. And it was just getting more and more. And I was like, I just don't want to spin this much fiber for this project. Like, it was just too much. So right now, all three of these equal about 115 grams per batch. So this is 115 grams and those are both 115 grams. And what I ended up doing was I added the remainder of the Shetland in equal ratios to what I had already prepped. So what has ended up happening, and I don't have my notes because of course I left them in the other room because of course I forgot to grab them, but that's okay. It's ended up being roughly 67% Shetland, 14% cotton, and then whatever's left for the Corriedale. And I've ended up with these little mini bats, and the cotton still isn't perfect, and I'm probably going to end up spinning and pulling some of it out. And there are still some areas where there's like little neppy bits from where the Shetland didn't cooperate in the picking. It's right there, bits like that I'll probably end up picking out I will end up picking out as I spin. But it does mean that this spin is prepped and ready to go. And I'm really excited about that because I feel like I've been talking about it and working on it since the summer. And to actually have this all prepped and ready to go now is like, oh, wonderful. And what I ended up doing was putting a bunch of it on my blending board to just get it started. I used the Dige method. There will be more coming out that in the spring. And once I get through treatment and I can do some recording and whatnot, yes, porosity, new word, yes. We will be exploring that in the spring as well. We will, as I sit here and pick at this, oh, it's so annoying. This will be my spring summer project. So kind of like my Rideau Arcot Charolais from last summer, this will be kind of like my Dorset too, actually. This will be my big spin that I'll kind of have going slowly in the background. And I'm looking forward to that. And I'm really glad I had the time that I carved out to get that done. The yarn is not going to be perfect. It'll have some inconsistencies in it and some neps and stuff, but I'll pull it all out like I just was. And it'll be fine. It'll be okay. No problem, no harm, no foul. So that is that. And I won't say too much more about it because I'm sure we'll end up waxing poetic about it on the podcast in the coming months. And I'm just looking forward to having the opportunity to start it and actually get spinning on it. I've done all the sampling for it. JC actually has all of the samples right now for the ply article that I wrote using some of this Shetland. So it'll be nice to get those samples back and actually start spinning and be able to talk about them a little bit more openly on the podcast, because I did share them, but I couldn't talk about them super openly because they were for the article. So that'll be really, really nice. Really nice. I washed some fleece this past week. We'll talk about that soon. It's a beautiful tawny brown color New Zealand Corriedale that I found at Fibers West last weekend. Beautiful. That's all. It's all washed. It's all ready to be lock popped. It's all organized into its locks already. So we'll talk about that some more into the spring. And I also picked up a beautiful Jacob from Madison, Wisconsin. It's a tri-color Jacob. These are a sample of all of the locks that I'll get into and start spinning as well. So some fun projects for me to look forward to over the next 3 to 6 months. I'm not under any illusions that I'm going to get any of this done in the next month or two, but it's just having some stuff again to look forward to. All right, let's talk about knitting, because I have quite a bit to share with you for knitting, and I just want to make sure that I haven't missed anything that I wanted to share with you. Yeah, we're on to knitting, so let's do that next. Yes, the New Zealand Corriedale. It is beautiful. I can't wait to work on it. I have a pound of it. I was gonna buy more than just a pound, but then I was like, oh, a pound, like that's good. I'm not sure what I'll do with it. I'll see what my yardage is when I'm done, but I'm really excited to work with it. And you know, a pound for something like this in sport weight, for a little t-shirt like this. Sorry, Nordland's she's been posting a V-neck tee that she's got coming up in the queue for patterns. There's also a really cool kind of slip over vest type pattern that Tashi of Starlight and what's it called? Starlight and blank. She just finished that I was kind of like, ooh, that would work. There's a few things like, and that's got some color work in it along the bottom band, which would be really pretty. I'm kind of at the point where I don't want to knit any really, really big sweaters right now. Like I don't want a big kind of pullover winter sweater type thing. I'm finding that I have more use for stuff that's a little bit lighter, a little bit, short sleeved, a little, not quite so heavy. And a lot of it's just our climate is not that cold. And I have my stitches in Starlight, of course. Thank you, Eve. I have my parka when I need a big heavy jacket. Like I just don't wear really super heavy stuff otherwise. And I really like the ability to layer. It's perfect. It's great. So knitting. Okay. In a very non-Rachel, well, it used to be a Rachel thing and then it became a non-Rachel thing because I got so burned out. I actually cast on a pair of socks. So let me show you the yarn. This is from 2016. It was Fiber Club from Sweet Georgia Yarns. It was superwash merino nylon, and it was from March of 2016, like I mentioned, and it was in the colorway Panorama. I skeined this up probably 2 years ago, I wound it into a ball about 2 years ago. That's how I'm sure it was 2 years ago. And it's kind of been sitting on my shelf staring at me ever since. And I had sort of thought about using it as a contrast color in my Attune shawl last summer. And then I just didn't. I chose something else. And it ended up sort of sitting there and staring at me and continuing to stare at me. And the thing about this yarn is that it was chain plied because I was spinning Sweet Georgia Yarns color Fiber Club at the time. And I always spun it the way that Felicia wanted it to be spun. And then I would take photos and I'd write on their blog about it. And so this was a colorway, it was because it was analogous. She wanted it chain plied to keep the colors a little bit separate, because the concern in her notes that went out to all the Fiber Club participants was that this beautiful kind of limey green in here, if it was done as like a traditional 3-ply or a multi-ply or like a fractal that from the pre-drafting and the stripping down and everything, that beautiful green would be lost when plied against some of these darker sort of, you know, dark tealy kind of evergreen kind of colors. And she's probably right. I think it probably would have been lost and sort of become very, very harmonious yarn. But, you know, probably quite blended in a lot of ways, and you'd sort of lose the nuance. And so she had recommended chain plying, which is fine. I chain plied it. And anyhow, the other night, I just wanted something totally mindless to work on, and I was looking at the yarn and I thought, I'm just going to cast on a pair of socks. The part of the reason was to have something in my purse for the next few weeks that's completely mindless, that I can pick up and put down at a moment's notice, especially if I'm having to wait over, especially like, you know, through these upcoming appointments. And I grabbed the needles that I thought were the right size needles for what I wanted to do, because the yarn isn't as thin as it maybe would be if I was spinning this now. And so I grabbed my 2.25 millimeter sock needles, like the baggy, and 2.25 is I think it's a US size 1, is that correct? Anyways, I started knitting and I got about like halfway up the foot. I told Lisa and Rebecca about this. I got halfway up the foot and I was like, and I tried it on my foot and I was like, this doesn't seem quite as dense as like I would normally knit my sock fabric. Like it just seems like not quite, like it's dense, but it's not like cardboard. And I checked the needles and they're 2.5 millimeter. They're US size 1.5. So I almost ripped back and started again. And then I was like, nope, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. So I kept on going. So I turned the heel yesterday. I had to look up the pattern and remember how to do a fish lips kiss heel. This is by Sock Therapist. This is a pattern that I've used for years, and I'd forgotten how to use it because I haven't knit a pair of socks since I think it was 2018, but it might have been the beginning of 2019 was the last pair of socks that I knit, because I did like 13 in the space of about 10 months, and I just was like, no more. And then they all got eaten by moths because, you know, that's a thing. So I haven't done socks since then. So there you go, socks for the first time in a long time. So I'm actually really enjoying them. I'm glad that I cast them on. They're knitting up extremely quickly. Yes, the yarn is not perfect, which is good. I'm just enjoying the process. Oh, the body is done. Let me move her closer. So I'll keep this back here a little bit just so that you guys can see all of the sweater. This is Pink Velvet by Andrea Mowry. I've been working on this forever. This is my Dorset, my 3-ply Dorset from last summer. So if you go back to episodes from last July of 2024, you will find me talking about this yarn. And then over the course of the winter, I dyed it. And these two colors were all dyed this color. And this isn't reading properly. I said this in spin group this morning too, like this color, the camera cannot pick it up. So I'm hoping that when we take finished object photos, that Mike and I are able to edit it to get it exactly like the actual color, but it's not as green. It's a little bit more blue. And then I took the contrast color yarn, the yardage that I needed for just the tulips of the Pink Velvet, and I over dyed this color with burnt orange at a 0.2 or 0.3% depth of shade, and that gave me that beautiful purple. This is gonna be short sleeved. I want it to be kind of more of a t-shirt. I don't have the yardage for long sleeves anyways, and I'm just at the point where I need to wind. I have a little bit of yarn. I have enough yarn for the ribbing left in this little skein, and I just need to wind the last little bit and do the same thing on this side so that I can make them equal and maximize the amount of yarn and hopefully use it all up. So it'll be slightly longer short sleeved. I'm hoping that the finished sleeves will be about 5 inches and they'll come just above my elbow. That would be ideal. And then I did my neckband already. So again, maximizing the yarn, using it all up, and then I finished the bottom. And this came out beautifully. This is a tubular bind off, the Italian bind off that we talked about a number of shows ago back in the fall. And I don't know if it was just the gauge and the yarn being really round and filling in all the spaces. I think it's a combination of a few different things, but the bind off down here, once this is washed and blocked and finished, I'll take a macro shot of the bottom hem. It came out really nicely. So a little bit of toot puff puff, but this just came out really, really nicely, and it finished up really, really beautifully. So almost done, almost done. I thought it would be done for today, but it's not, because I got distracted. Let's talk about distractions. I'm so excited about this. Okay, a little story time. The whole podcast is story time. I don't know why I kid myself. The whole thing is story time. Okay. So so let me just set the stage. On Friday morning, I go to the gym for I leave at 7:15 in the morning, and Michael, who's one of the coaches, opens the gym for 7:30. He gets there early. The class technically doesn't start until 8 a.m., but you have your program on your phone. So you just get there when you get there and you start working through your stuff. And the coaches help you with technique, and they come over and they tweak you and they do all sorts of things. And so I got there. I'll put it back on the big screen for just a minute because I'm just going to talk at you for a minute. And so I got there, did my thing, and I started doing my thing. It's Friday morning, and then I looked at my program, and I was like, this is like really heavy this morning. And so I'm like looking at my numbers. I'm like, this is really heavy. So I'm like scrolling. I'm like, no, like, and Melissa of Mally Knits, her and I work out together. Her and her husband show up, and I'm like, Melissa, this is like really heavy. So she pokes her head into the gym. She looks around the corner, and I was just in the process of like pushing a very heavy barbell over my head. And she looks at Michael and she's like, that's my friend. I was like, oh God, like this is really heavy. Got through my workout, survived. And the rest of the day, I was just like, okay, I need to eat. I need to recover. I need to do everything I can to to recover. So because I had another workout Saturday morning, because Saturday morning, if we can, Mike and I try to work out together, because it's the one day a week that we can go together and we can have that time together. And so I was like, I had to eat, make sure I got really good sleep, recover, foam roll, all the things. I felt really, really good. So then Saturday morning I get to the gym and it's equally heavy. I was like, well, that doesn't usually happen where it's like back to back to back. So Saturday morning, super, super heavy. So I get halfway through, Mike's like, are you okay? I'm like, it's just really heavy. So, and not tons of reps, just heavy. So Saturday, we had a relatively quiet day. I was working on the Weft magazine article, weaving stuff, so on and so forth. And then Sunday morning, I had to do it again because of some stuff going on this week. I knew that I wouldn't be able to fit it all in. So Sunday morning ended up being really heavy. And Josh, who's the coach on Sundays, he was like, this is awesome. And I actually got 2 records, personal bests on Sunday morning. And so by Sunday afternoon, I was like, okay, kids are back to school tomorrow. Spring break is over. I have to rest. I have to recover. I've got to eat enough. I have to foam roll. And so in the afternoon, there was a soccer game on. It was Vancouver Whitecaps against Toronto FC for Major League Soccer, MLS. And Mike was like, just sit on the couch and do nothing. He's like, just come and sit with me. And I was like, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. I don't generally sit in the middle of the day and watch soccer. Mike and the kids will, but it's not my favorite thing to do. I'd rather go and read a book or work on my stuff, or I'll drag my spinning wheel over. And I prefer to watch it in the evening, and I don't find during the day that I really find it that relaxing or that enjoyable. And I was like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to do that. And so I went into the kitchen and I was like, I want a new project to work on. I'm going to go sit with him, and I'm going to work on something. So like a normal person would grab the sock, or they would grab the sweater and finish the sweater. So I popped on Ravelry. And the first sweater that I saw, this is going somewhere, just bear with me, was this. And I was like, I need that right now in my life. I have to knit that right now. So I printed off the pattern. This is by Audrey Borrego. She's designed quite a few sweaters that are in my favorites, and this is one of her. I don't think this is super new, or it maybe is brand new. I'd never seen it before. That doesn't mean anything because I don't look at patterns as much as I used to, because I find that I want to knit all the things. And I was like, I needed between 800 and 900 yards of the main color. And I was like, I've got to have something, that's got to be in my stash somewhere. I've got to have that somewhere. I must have 800 meters, sorry, not yards, meters of yarn in my stash. Okay, big gap in my stash. I do not have a whole bunch of almost 1,000 meters of anything in my stash. I've got like bits and pieces, and then I've got big like 1,500 meters in my stash, but I don't have like between 700 and 1,000 yards. So that's a hole that I need to fill for moments like this that don't happen very often, but when they do, you need the yarn right now. So I did find one 850 meters of this from 2020. It was a CVM fleece that I split with my friend Greta of Back to Basics. She's the education technologist for Sweet Georgie Yarns, a dear friend of mine. I had 850 meters of this. So I was like, it's enough, I'll cast on. I have no idea what the contrast color is going to be, but I'll cast on anyways. So that's what I did. And this was spun back in 2020, right at the height of all of us being at home, and right, you know, during sort of the peak of that sheltering in place, social distancing, being at home during those early COVID days. And this was also the yarn that got siphoned off. Most of it was made into a 3-ply for my Spark cardigan. And I printed off the pattern, and I didn't gauge swatch because I knew that it was probably going to be roughly right. And I just sat next to Mike and we watched the game. It was not the Whitecaps playing very well, to be honest. It was not great. They tied. They should have won. And I cast on. It's this beautiful raglan. So you build out, you build the back neck as you're building slowly forward to build the front neck. So I've actually now joined for in the round knitting, and I've started on the chart now finally. So I think I have 3 or 4 rows to go before I add the contrast color. So then last night, and it's just knitting up beautifully. Like this fabric, it's just, let me pull the needles so that I don't lose them. But look at this fabric. It's a 2-ply. It's so fuzzy. It was spun long draw. It's so lovely. It's just, it's soft and it's springy. It's not super, super, super fine, even though it's soft. So it's got a nice hand to it. It has a slight density to it that'll be really nice. It'll wear really well. So I was looking through my stash, and it actually, the yarn had been in a bag with a skein of Nest Fiber Studios Club that I had spun. I think I have it. I think I have the photos. Do I have the photos? No, I don't. I thought I had them. Okay, well, I'll show it to you next time. Nest Fiber Studios. This is, I think it's Finn. Now I'm second guessing myself because it doesn't have a tag, but I know that it might be merino nylon or merino silk. I feel like it's Finn. I don't remember. Why do I not remember? I just looked this up. Let me just find it really quick because I don't want to say anything wrong and then people will come back to me and be like, but you said. I was like, yeah. Yeah, it is merino silk. So Nest Fiber Studio Merino Silk. This is the colorway Amanar. A-M-A-N-A-R. Amanar. It's kind of a reddy orange corally kind of a color. I think it'll be nice, not right against my face, but as the contrast color down here. I wear this color quite often. And yeah, Dion says it's totally your color. Yes, I have 425 meters of this yarn, so more than enough for the pattern. It calls for 360 meters, so I might even be able to add an extra row or 2 of color work if I want to make this go a little bit further. It was spun in April of 2017. So this is, again, more deep stash and a really wonderful opportunity to use it, because this is like, it's like they were meant to go together. It'll be high enough contrast that you'll be able to see the color work, but not so high contrast that you completely lose the tawny brown, beautiful CVM kind of color. Like it'll be, I think it'll work really well together. And there aren't so many light areas of this yarn. Like there's areas like this where you've got this beautiful light kind of pinky corally color. But it's not so much that it'll be really super low contrast and you'll completely lose it in the color work, if that makes sense. So just for those who want to see the pattern again, just to sort of get an idea, it's called Caledonia and it's by Audrey Borrego. So that'll be the contrast. And actually it's completely coincidence that my colors are similar to what she used in the sample. That was completely coincidental, but I think this will be really pretty. And I'll use up as much as I can. Started on a total whim. And that is why Pink Velvet is not done. So really fun way to sort of end, because I'm looking forward to doing that and to just enjoying this project. And I've been excited to work on it. And yeah, kind of reinvigorated my knitting a little bit. I've really felt this winter like I haven't been very excited about my knitting. And I think part of it is I know I have a stash full of yarn that I want to use and I don't know what to do with it. And I actually went to Ravelry looking for the Gambit cowl and I was going to cast that on. And then I saw this and was like, oh, and jumped over. So yeah. All right, I have missed a ton of chat, so let me catch up. Thank you, Rebecca, for stepping in and explaining and sharing with Sharon. I appreciate that. And thank you, Sharon, for your prayers. I really appreciate that. Yes, Yarn Flakes. That's who Audrey Borrego is. Yarn Flakes. I know I don't need an excuse for another cast on. It was just such a funny situation. Mike looks at me. So I've like got my pattern. I wound my yarn right away and I made sure I had enough yardage. And he's like, what are you doing? Like, why are you not just sitting here doing nothing? I'm like, actually, I feel really excited about this. And this is like really fun. And he's like, oh my gosh. And so I like sit next to him and of course I'm moving because I'm knitting. And he's like, can you just sit still? I'm like, I am sitting still. He's like, but you're not. I'm like, but I am. I was killing myself laughing. He was like, you are so ridiculous. It was really fun. Calamondin. Did I put the wrong, oh, I said Caledonia. Thank you, Rebecca. It's Calamondin. Thank you. I wrote the wrong, I think actually what it did was it spell checked it and it changed it. Calamondin is the actual name of the pattern. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, Rebecca says, oh my word, my husband knows better to ask me that. I know, it's so like, it's not that I can't not sit still. It's that when I feel really inspired, I want to do the thing. That's really what it is. And I don't want to sit there scrolling on my phone. Like I knew I wasn't that interested in the game because it wasn't a great game. So I knew that I'd like sit there, you know, and I was just like, no, I don't want to be on my screen. I don't want to do that. So, and then I felt really inspired when I saw the sweater. So well done, Audrey, for a great pattern design. The pattern is a little bit long. It's a little bit wordy. I think there's some, like in it, there's some knowledge in there as an experienced knitter that when you're writing a pattern, you can assume that people who are knitters know what you mean. So it's like over explained, but I get where she's coming from because people who are newer to knitting wouldn't know. So I have done a bunch of like, I've skipped a bunch of stuff and just like kept going because I just know what to do. Rebecca says sitting still is just, what is that? I know. Yeah, and it's a free pattern. I was wondering if she had it tech edited or anything. It's a really well done pattern. So, you know, this gets into that whole argument of like, should these patterns be free? Cause I would have been more than happy to pay, to have it. So, very controversial discussion. But an important one to value what we're doing and the time that it takes to put these patterns together and to be compensated for your work. So yeah, that's another conversation for another day. Anyhow, thank you to Audrey for putting it out there because I'm really enjoying it. All right, we'll do community participation, but we're gonna blast through it really quickly because I'm just watching the time and the kids finishing school, which is totally fine. We've got time, but I just don't want to, I do need to watch the time a little tiny bit. Yeah, and it's funny, Rebecca, because she says with a free pattern, just go in knowing you may have to bring some more of your own knowledge. In this case, it's the opposite, which is really good. So these are community participation is where we get to share what you guys are working on and what you're sharing, both in the Ravelry group and the Slack channel. So I hope that you enjoy some of this. For our Year of Yarn, we're doing our multi-year study of Sarah Anderson's book. We're nearing the end, you guys. We're in the second year, like we're done in December. Crazy. But this is from Sam. She was watching Rebecca doing the opposing ply, and so she did a little sample. Spun 2 Z spun, they have silk noils added in, and the opposing S spun is sari silk. All were put through the drum carder, and then she spun on her Majacraft and plied. Was kind of wishing I had Attention Lazy Kate. That really helps when you're doing opposing plies, but look at this yarn. It is beautiful, Sam. Gorgeous results. And you can kind of see, if you look really closely at the photo, you can see that opposing ply, that S spun and then S plied single, where it's just that little bit tighter and it's in there. You can see it. And I love the look of opposing ply yarns because of that. It'll be interesting to hear, as you guys spin your opposing plies and knit them, how you find they wear. Breed blends and color study. Holy smokes, you guys have been doing a ton with your breed blends and color study. Dion has been spinning up. She actually decided to diz hers before spinning, and she's getting beautiful results. So if you're wanting a really airy light prep without it falling apart, you can put your fiber through a diz, just very gently pulling it through and pre-drafting it. This is from Ellen. She's got her 3-ply done. This is the Fireside colorway. This is the Winter Morning colorway. And then this is the Fireside colorway. There's 3 colorways, remember. And I think Ellen is in the process or has finished plying. Am I correct, Ellen? I think you're like nearing finishing this. This is from Haram. She did a 3-ply 2 ways spin along with Andrea Mowry recently. So she chain plied one of hers and then did a 3-ply, a traditional 3-ply. She was a little bit worried. We chatted in the Slack channel about chaining and about when it comes to the long wools, but she said it actually ended up working out better than she thought. And man, beautiful yarns. Just beautiful, great blend. She loves the sheen. This is from Wheezy. She did a combo. They did a combo, which I think is wonderful because he was saying they want the yardage for socks, if I remember. Last time I talked to them, I'm pretty sure they were looking for the yardage for socks and ended up having, I think they have a half pack. Wheezy, you're going to have to help me out. I know you're not in the live stream today, but I can't remember what you had said. It's just been a couple of weeks now since we chatted. I think they've got a half set like what I'm working with, and then did a combo of all 3 to be able to do socks, and just gorgeous yarn. Man, did you get beautiful results there, Wheezy. Beautiful. And these are our general makes and shares, all of our stuff that people are working on. Becca's been doing her spinning certificate, and so she's just gone back to cotton to do her cotton sampling. Definitely a change. Hard to change gears, having to relearn how to do this whole spinning thing after spinning flax. Beautiful though, Becca. This is from Simone. I thought she shared a bunch of photos of this project. All of them were beautiful, but this one sort of shared, kind of summed up the project, if you will. But go back and have a look at what she's doing in the Slack channel. Just gorgeous photos with it. She bought some English Lister from a farm called Fleecewood, which I think is located in New Zealand, where she's from. You can buy the fleece or she washes, and then you can get it carded into a sliver. 200 grams of the natural colors, and practicing to spin finer, spun 32 wraps per inch, made 28 gram 3-ply samples at 13 wraps per inch once washed. So really beautiful sport weight yarn, heavy fingering sport weight. Allowed me to be more confident spinning the breed blends and color studies because she wants socks. Gorgeous, amazing. This is from Dania, beautiful singles here, Icelandic from Small Bird Workshop, located in Nanaimo, British Columbia. And actually, Catherine's taken a step back and Small Bird is on a hiatus, but beautiful fiber. Always gorgeous, gorgeous prep and gorgeous, gorgeous fiber. I hope Catherine does come back to it eventually. And this is 100 grams that Dania spun, just beautiful. This is from Sue. I love this so much. This was such a great slipover vest. It's labor of love over the last 8 months. The color work was fun. Steeking the bands worked well, but glad they are done. It's Jamieson and Smith 2-ply jumper weight, and the motifs were from Andrea Rangel's book Alternate. Beautiful. Love this mashup. Beautiful slipover from Kat. See why I'm so inspired to knit a bunch of slipovers, you guys? Like, there's a reason. All season vest, knit down the shoulder portion so I'd have some mindless stockinette in the round for long train days. It worked out well, start to finish, 11 days. Wow, Kat, wow. Looks fantastic. I love the color. Also from Dania, she blended and actually dyed Rambouillet with alpaca and some Navajo churro, spinning on her woodland handcrafts mushroom spindles. She loves this blend. It's beautiful, Dania. Gorgeous spin. I can't wait to see this done. From Lisa, more pretty fiber from My Kingdom, Fleece and Fiberworks Advent. That, of course, is Liz, located in Vermont in the US of A. And spindles are from Dancing Goats and Top of the Whirl. Beautiful. Thank you so much, you guys, for sharing what you do and for being for participating in the community, for spinning, for using your hand spun, for doing all the things. I really appreciate it. It's really fun for me to be able to share it with you guys. It makes being able to do the podcast and being able to share what you guys are doing as well. It makes me feel like I can share the spotlight with all of you guys, and not just share my journey, but share some of yours as well, whatever you want to share with me and put out there. So I really appreciate that. I hope you guys have a wonderful couple of weeks. The Wool Circle will be streaming at 12 noon Pacific next Tuesday for those who are Wool Circle members. Remember that there's a 7-day free trial on Patreon if you'd like to give it a try. And there's an archive of past episodes if you want to, during your 7-day free trial, have a look at those and see if it's something that you're interested in longer term. Rebecca does a lot of work and really works hard to prepare those episodes for you guys, and it really shows. And so I hope you'll check it out. So that is next Tuesday. The Tuesday after, which is, I feel like that's the 15th. Am I correct? Yes, the 15th will be a takeover episode with Rebecca. And then she will have a week off because she'll have had 2 weeks in a row of streaming. And so the final Tuesday in April, since there are 5 Tuesdays in April, the final Tuesday, which is the 29th, will be the Wool Circle again. So we're going to have normally we would take the last Tuesday, but this month she's going to take the 4th Tuesday off. So there will be no live stream on Tuesday the 22nd from me or Rebecca. I will be recovering and she will be preparing for the 29th. So just so that you guys know to sort of write those down, I put it in the Ketchup and Pickles post that went up this morning for April. All of the links that you need for the month, the teaching content, the breed blends and color study, the radio show, like all the things are in that post, Ketchup and Pickles for April of 2025. So the Wool Circle will stream next week, and then it will stream the last Tuesday of the month, and then Rebecca will take over the live stream here, right here in this space, on Tuesday, April 15th. Which is really exciting. So I will see you guys at the beginning of May, but I will be in and out, and I will be checking in with you guys in the Zoom groups, on the Patreon community on the Slack channel under #general. If you see a Zoom link in #general, you are welcome to join. So when you see Zoom links going up in that channel, that is for everybody who is a part of the Patreon community. So don't ever hesitate to click that link. You are more than welcome and more than invited. Just so that, because I always get questions about like, can I join again next week? It's like, absolutely, you are always invited. If there's a Zoom link in the #general channel of Slack, you are welcome. So I will see you guys throughout the month on there, and I will see you here in this space in May. So until then, happy spinning, happy knitting, happy all the things. I wish you all the absolute best. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful month. I can't wait to share all the things with you the first episode in May. And I look forward to hearing from Rebecca in a couple of weeks and hearing what she's working on. It's always fun for you guys to get a break from me and to have her instead. And I hope you guys have a really wonderful month. So, mwah! I will see you in May.